Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Pete Poly Polyakov. I hope I got that pronunciation correct.
I think you did a great job.
Founder of Mods Nation, the world's largest 3D automotive tuning platform, and Avion Bao. Oh my God. Ba.
Brother, it's like bow like a bow and the
Yeah.
house like a
Okay.
house.
Oh, Bauhaus, a
Yep,
custom Porsche
perfect.
911 design house, reimagining what automotive personalization can look like. After losing money buying car parts that didn't look right in real life, Pete built what did not exist, a 3D try before you can buy platform with over 600 cars and 250,000 parts. With a PhD in philosophy and a background spanning architecture, film, and software, Pete approaches car design differently, and it shows. Pete, welcome to the platform. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we kick things off, can you please tell us more about yourself?
Well, as you told just a little bit earlier, I run two projects, which is Mods Nation and RV Bauhaus. The first one, it's a solution for many of us who buy products from based of pictures. It was also my pain. And the second one, it's Arvin Bauhaus. It's a Porsche 911 design house where we're trying to design as one, imagine it from scratch. And I was born in Moscow, grew up in South Asia, and somehow ended up in Florida. So it's kind of quite a journey. And, working and learning every day.
Oh wow, that's wonderful. I honestly love, the fact that you've been around the world. You've been in the major places in the world. You were born in Russia. You grew up in South Asia, which I think should be around China, Japan, that region.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're in the American continent. Have you ever been to Africa before?
Oh, listen, I almost moved into the car. I literally sent all my stuff there, but then I was crossing Union Square and I met
Hi.
my wife, like literally crossing the road. And I look at her. Listen, I was in my prime time. I never imagined
Yeah,
myself being with a woman for a long period of time. But
yeah.
when I look at that woman, I said, "This is my wife." And I think she thought I'm a psychopath or something like that. But you know what? I think since that day we never split apart. So this is how all my things went to Africa. But I stayed right there where I am.
Oh
That's how.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's such a beautiful love story. Wow. Oh, okay, that's cool. Maybe because right now I'm in Africa. I'm talking to you from Africa, but anytime you come into the continent, you can hit me up. As
Absolutely.
if I'm
I
still
would
here by
love
that time. So the first question I wanted to ask you is you lost money buying parts online that did not look right.
that's
Was it
true.
what yeah, was that frustration was that frustration what led to more okay, sorry. Was that frustration what that is that the frustration that gave birth to Mods Nation, essentially?
Well, about 7 years ago, I saved a little bit money and I thought, let me make a gift for myself for Christmas. Let me buy a body kit for my old Beamer, for my old BMW. Uh, and a few grand later, a few weeks later, I got that kit, and I found myself on the driveway trying to install that thing on the car. First, it did not fit. I had to cut, shave, try to fit it. And when I put it together, it looked so bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I bought that thing for this amount of money. And I look at the pictures and I look at what I got, and it was just so far away from each other. I like, okay. My wife walked outside and she said, well, family money spent well. It kind of was like a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
She laughed a lot, but she had a good time, but I didn't. And at that moment I said, well, listen, I have experience in 3D, quite in depth, and I probably should just in the future design whatever I want to, buy in 3D first and look at my own car exactly how it will look like before I will make a purchase.
Yes.
And I just started to do it for myself just as entertainment. Then few friends of mine asked for the same thing. And then, I kind of found myself, I'm almost like a factory line producing these kits and punching them together. And then, 7 years later, we're running a company with almost 600 cars, I think a little bit more now, and about 250,000 parts, what people can try before they will make a purchase. So that's how it happened.
Oh wow, that's wonderful. I can, there's a saying that we discover something genuine in the moments that we have our biggest problems. I think that's how it goes, kind of. So I mean, imagine you spending money on something that you actually wanted to do, spending so much amount of money, and it ended up being a loss. Definitely, some people will be frustrated and they will just probably give up on whatever they are trying to pursue, and they will just stop or maybe divert and start doing something else entirely. But instead, you actually got inspiration from that and you started your company, which is actually a very beautiful, a very wonderful thing. And I'm actually glad that your company is, doing very well today. So I wanted to ask, most people would complain that you built infrastructure. What made you think you could build the world's largest 3D tuning library?
Well, I didn't know what I could, but everything comes, when it goes. And uh, I realized at some point what it's not about making 3D models and it's not about, making everything look cool, but it's about creating at some scale, I realized what it's about structure and sometimes even boring parts, when you need to make sure it fitment works right, and technology works right. And, what all these parts interconnected. And, at some point when I had about 100K car parts, I was like,
Wow.
I was
Wow.
like, oh, like it's a lot of work, and I had to create like few fundamental inventions in order even to make it work. Because I think part of the reason why it never existed before, because there were absolutely no way what you can, even make such a library in such a specific field. It just was like, pointless. So I
Yes.
kind of had to figure out with a few quite fundamental inventions in that field in order to make it happen. But I think the most challenging part was, make everything like scientifically correct. Because people were coming for me not just to look at the pictures, kind of like their car will look like. They wanted exactly the fit. They wanted exactly the look and stance of their car there, And then when it started to unfold wider, when factories look at that product and they said, "What the hell is that?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a little thing." And they're like, "Do you understand what you built for us? Because that unlocks us to test the demand before we'll produce anything. So we will
Oh,
not spend a dime on any product before we will validate the demand with the real community, like mini Kickstarter, if you'll think about that, everyday mini Kickstarter for every single thing." And, that's probably, I think like just understanding, like constant zoom out, I think that was the biggest challenge, and that was like not the easy part when you need to constantly like zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, zoom out, and look at the things a little bit from the bigger perspective. I think something like that.
wow. So I think I actually get it now. So let me try and explain everything you've told me so far. So essentially, the way your business works is, if I want to create, let's say I want to modify a car, I want to tune my car a certain way. Instead of me having to do it in real life and trial and error, I can just do it with your software. And if I can get the exact dimensions of my car, I'll do it with your software, try out different modifications and different designs. Then when I'm eventually satisfied with a particular design, I can then take out that design out of your software and recreate it in real life. That's it essentially.
Almost absolutely right. Just with a little thing, you don't need to do anything. You just come and play. You
Oh
just
wow.
choose your car, you just choose the color of the car, you just choose whatever you already installed, and then you start to experiment with anything you want. So you're
Oh,
like, let me try these wheels. And you know the cost of the error is zero because you didn't pay
yes,
anything, you didn't buy anything, you just tried,
yes.
right?
Oh,
Or
wow.
maybe you love, I don't know, for example, you love Toyota and you would never install American muscle wheels on your Toyota in the real
Yeah,
life. Why would you do that, right? Or for
yeah,
example, the opposite. I have a 1968 fastback and it runs on GDM wheels, which is big scene in America. You know, have
yeah,
an American muscle car on Japanese wheels. And the reason why I did that, because it
yeah,
did not cost me anything just to try it on. You know, because I went on Mods Nation, I put my car there, and I put on some super cool wheels, which I would never imagine. So it
yeah,
also unlocks you to imagine something, you know, when you would never do that in real life. And then you, oh, I kind of like that. That kind of looks cool. So, and that's also, you know, it's also unlocks people. But you're absolutely correct. You know, you can try it and it will be so close to reality. What there's such a little frustration can happen there because you already know what you're buying.
yes. Oh, wow. Wow. That's actually very wonderful. So, how have you been able to scale your business, to the point where it is today? How are you able to convince people? It's actually quite fascinating. Definitely, you would able to convince, any car owner. Have you been able to convince, any maybe big business, big car business brand to partner with you?
Well, you know, I kind of doing the same thing for 30 years. I never convince anyone to do anything, but I create the products what kind of so tempting for people when they look at them to the point they're like, how can, because the only two questions I had when I ran Mods Nation, and this was kind of like exactly the same questions all the time from exactly, you know, like two different crowds, but there's no more question. Number one,
Yes.
uh, any person who just wanted to play with their own cars, they will come to me and say, do you have my car on your platform? And from the any business side, when they were coming to me, they would ask me, how can I be part of that? And that's the only really two questions I had. So with the big businesses, the way I did that, uh, about 6 years ago, I decided to go to SEMA, and SEMA is one of the largest car expos in the world for aftermarket.
Wow.
And the only reason why I went there just to, you know, kind of like ask people questions, you know, and just to understand how can I make my product better. I got the worst booth ever, and actually in the wrong hall. You know, there's like different halls in at Siemens,
Yes.
it's giant space, and I went to the wrong hall, and the most boring place. I think I was sitting between the truck driver hats on the one side. You know, pretty much the dude was selling the hats, and on the other
Yes.
side was some, I don't know, gas station cards, something like that. So
Yeah.
it was the most ridiculous space for me to even be there, right?
Yes.
and uh, and it was, you know, the god probably never stepped a foot there. It was absolutely no people in that lane, and somehow that happened. What I got a crowd of constant people coming in, and they just asking questions, and most of them were manufacturers. When they start to look at that, they're like, do you understand what we usually, when we produce the product, we can predict a line of products. But for example, we're creating something for this car, and we know like 1 out of 10 of these products will perform well, but the
Yeah.
rest will pretty much burn. You know, because
Yes.
it just, and it's a lot of money. Sometimes it's between $20,000 to $250,000, depends on the
Mm.
part. And it's quite expensive mistake if you think about that.
Yes,
And
actually.
and they said, well, and what I understood at that moment, what they cannot predict the behavior of one singular object on the market. They can predict the whole, but they cannot predict one. But
Yes.
I said, Mods Nation actually can, because what you can do, you can just put your designer and put your product manager together and
Yes.
say, how about you will create 10 designs, put them on mods in 3D. You don't need to do engineering model, just need to make the right design. put
Yes.
them there and see if any pre-orders will come in, and then see from what regions it's coming from. And then you can say, well, look how this product behaves in APAC or, like in Europe, on North America, right? You're like, wow, that works really well and really works really bad in Asia. We're not gonna do it there. This product we're not gonna produce at all because nobody wants that. But this
Yes.
just breaks all the records, right? And
Yes.
what happened, my partners, like factories, they start to unlock themselves by just producing better parts, what people like. So
Oh,
they start to
wow.
produce less of the parts people don't like and more what people like. And that was kind of quite shocking, revealing. I was doing similar business about 30 years ago with the t-shirts, but I never thought it's going to be such a big blow at the expo. And when I walked back home, I was just about how can I make all these demands, on time or, at some reasonable time for all these people. So that was kind of the thing. I never had the experience when I need to convince people. It was kind of the opposite.
Oh,
I
wow.
usually
It's
would.
actually people trying to convince you
Correct.
to
They
partner
said,
with
it
you.
was the weirdest thing ever because
Yeah.
all these like international manufacturers, most of them from China, they were kind of start to push each other with elbows just to give him their business card. It
Wow.
was kind of crazy situation, but
Wow.
uh, you know, when I understood their problem, their pain, they kind of like, I went there to understand their pain, but they went at SEMA to actually meet me.
Oh,
That's
wow.
was the craziest part, and I didn't know
Yeah.
about that. So,
You,
yeah.
you made honestly, it's actually cool because you made a very impressive, your product is actually very impressive. Imagine, instead of them, doing trials and error, like I said before, except now it's a company, not an individual person. Instead of them, making a range of products, then hoping that maybe two or three of them perform well in the market, they can actually just create, like you said, a 3D model and sell to people. Then people will just choose out of all the models, then the one that performs the best is the one that we actually milk in real life. Then the rest I will just discard. It's actually a very beautiful, beautiful concept, and your product's actually very wonderful. So I wanted to ask you how, you study philosophy in school, I believe. So how does philosophy play back into your business? How does it help you run your business essentially?
I think one probably the most important thing in all that it's ability constantly to zoom out because you as a philosopher and also as an architect, um, as a philosopher, you cannot be inside of the context in order to research that. You need to kind of be outside. So you need to kind of have a skill to zoom out. And for the architect, you never work just with the building. You work with the entire composition. So you need to
Yeah,
zoom out again. And I think that's kind of skill I learned over years, how constantly zoom out. Because sometimes problem is not a real problem. Like about 30 years ago, I think it was, uh, yeah, it was, I was like about 20 years old and I went to,
what? Wait, sorry for me asking. How old are you right now?
I'm 44.
I
I'm
thought you were
44.
like,
So it was a little
I
bit
thought
less, 26, 26, about 20. So
I,
like
I
20.
thought I thought you were like 28 or
Oh,
29.
no, 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 no.
I want to be I want to be like you when I grow up.
It's just too cold in Florida. You're like in the fridge. You cannot,
Oh,
really go anywhere. Like you're in stasis. So
yeah.
that's the thing. But yeah, I'm about 20 years old and I'm going to that company. They selling laptops
Yeah.
and they sell about 20 laptops a month. And they asked me, can you like double? And I looked at that. Well, mostly they were selling at that time. They were selling to the newspapers, a little bit TV. But
Yes.
then I look at that, and it's kind of like zooming out problem, right? I look at that and I said, well, at that time the laptop was a subject of luxury. It was technology, but also it was a kind of like luxury product at
Yeah.
the time.
Yes.
And then I looked at it, well, said, well, people who buy such a technology probably already having technology.
Yes.
And so they just want to upgrade for whatever reason. And then I probably one of the first people who blew up Google and all other search engines with my super keywords, like
Yes.
SEO and so on. And I punched their sales about 20 to 30 sales a day, which was nice, but still, my income was dependent on the pure, what's the outcome, what's the clean cash after
Yes. Yes.
taxes and all expenses, right? So I wanted to kind of like boost it a little bit. Then I realized very, very quickly what people at that time they were not really understanding what they're buying. And most of these laptops were come as a refurbished laptops, and they had a really bad packaging, like this nasty gray, brown packaging. Didn't really look
Yes.
good. And when I looked at that, I said, I look at these two laptops, and one of them was in a really terrible package, and other one, what I just spent $1.50 just to produce a new one. It was really nice and beautiful one, but literally was extra $1.50, and I just pumped that price for $600 up. And when people were coming in, I was explaining it's the same laptops. It just this one has certification, our certification, which we are producing for both actually. And I was trying to convince them just out of intellect experiment. I was like, it's the same. And they kind of were kind of like, sir, we're probably gonna get that one, the beautiful. So we had about 60% of people were choosing just a better box, for their exactly the same laptop, and we're paying $600 extra. And how could I do that?
Wow.
Because I pretty much I zoomed out at that moment, and I said, what is happening? These people don't really understand what they're buying and why they're buying that, and what they really buying is an assurance. What they buying is something great, and sometimes it's just the packaging, not really the product.
That's crazy. Just the mere fact that it looks good, I like it. I'm buying one. They didn't even ask about the performance or anything. That's
Well,
mind-boggling. And that's just people for you. That's human beings. So I wanted to ask, Mods Nation isn't just a visualization tool. Manufacturers actually use it, like I said before, to test demand in the market. Did you always envision it as a market intelligence infrastructure?
one more time, sorry. It was a little bit sound.
Okay, okay, sorry. I said, Mods Nation isn't just a tool for visualization, the way people
Correct.
use it. It's also something that, manufacturers use to test demand in the market. So I wanted to
Correct.
ask, did you ever envision that your product will become a tool that will be used for market intelligence infrastructure?
Startup it's like a plane. It takes off. You having some that euphorical moment when you feel
Yeah.
everything's great, everything is easy. Then you hit the clouds and you don't
Turbulence.
really understand where are you going, what's gonna
Mm.
happen. Are you gonna punch that mountain in a second, or are you just gonna fly further down? So about 3, 5 years, you have no idea what's going on. But I assure you, if you will survive that time,
Yes.
then you're coming out of the clouds and you kind of start to see everything, what is going on. So if you will survive as a startup 3, 5 years, I assure you, by that time you will have very, very clear picture of what is going on. And kind of the same thing for us. When we start to build that, you know, did I have any idea? Absolutely not. I just was solving my silly problem on the driveway. I didn't solve anything else. And then when it become, further and further depth in, and, we were flying in these clouds, essentially we came out and we understood what are we doing and what this product is about and for who this product built. So
Yes.
no, I have no idea. I had no idea, but we figure out on the way.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about starting a business. In the beginning, you would actually be planning to do something else entirely, and along the lines, you will discover that your product is actually meant for much more than you could have ever imagined, which is actually a beautiful thing. I also wanted to ask you, you've worked in architecture in film. Although you've kind of like expanded on this, but I want you to just tell us more about it. And you can even tell us if you have any stories about your experience working in architecture and film, you can also share it. So how did these two disciplines influence the way you design digital automotive experience?
Well, you know, such a background gives you ability to build things end to end. And I think that's probably the advantage because, if you think about that, film is a kind of like end point in a way when you solidify the product and deliver it. And the only step after that is just experience of having something, owning something, right? Ownership. And philosopher observe and architects imagine. So I think
Yes,
all that is kind of like a cycle, what helps me to see things before I build them. No matter what, like my customers, like factories, they test the demand. I kind of imagine things before I build them, and sometimes I clearly see what's going on and sometimes not. So it helps a lot. Um, and I think probably that's it. So it just, ability to imagine for a second. How could that be?
well, you remember during the introduction and during the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned how you've been to the major parts of the world. So I wanted to ask you, you were born in Moscow, raised in South Asia, and now you built from Florida. How has that global perspective shaped how you think about identity, aesthetics, and brand?
Well, it's kind of two questions in one, but number one, I want to say what living in different cultures helps a lot in perspective. To understand the beauty and intelligence and a little bit less ignorance. All of us ignorant, but we become a little bit less when we see life different. Uh,
Yes,
that helps a lot, and how all that helps because sometimes you include your personal experiences into the products you do, no matter what it is. So it definitely has some, affection. So I would say like this, whatever you do is cumulatively, like it's a cumulative effect because otherwise I would not be who I am and I would not be where I'm at, right? So
yes,
I think it just kind of like you cannot really pinpoint say, well, that line comes from there, right? And this
yeah,
this thing which you do, it's right there. But when you work on something, you think about everyone. You don't like you don't split. You're kind of looking at the whole thing. So
yes,
uh,
yes.
hard to say, but you know what? I would say like this. It,
I
it gives interesting perspective. It gives
yes,
interesting perspective and a little bit better understanding what our entire planet.
yes.
It's a one thing. It's not split apart.
Yes, I actually understand. Although I've not left my country before, my country is quite diverse. It has about 36 states plus one federal capital territory. So different states, different ethnicities. We all look the same though, but we speak different languages. We have different
Correct.
cultures. So, I've been to different states in the country, about 10 states, I think. So you can imagine that I've had different experiences with different people, and I now understand how we all come together as one, kind of. So sometimes when I want to do something, or for example, I want to build a product, I wouldn't just be considering one ethnicity. I would try to think how it can connect everyone and all the people, all the places I've been to, all the people I know. So I actually understand what you're trying to say. When you're bringing the product, you take from all your experiences, from experience growing up in Moscow, from experience being in South Asia, from your experience being in Florida, and all these things these are lived experience. And I'm also sure that, even being in South Asia, you moved around the countries there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've been to lots of places, you've experienced lots of people, and these are all lived experiences. So I could imagine to an extent. though, like I said, I've not left my country before, but I can imagine very much to an extent how it would influence how you create your products and whatnot. And that's actually very wonderful and beautiful to see. So I wanted to ask you a set of rapid fire questions. You can either answer with a phrase or a sentence. So the first one is, what do you think philosophy teaches us?
Just just sometimes it gives you opportunity to look at all our life from the distance of Mars. And then when we look from such distance, uh, it's kind of immediately starts to be clear what is really important or not. Does it really matter what car you drive at the distance of Mars? It's just a dot. It's not even dot. You cannot see. It's an atom. All right.
Yes,
Doesn't really matter. It's not. Does it really matter your status at such a distance? Absolutely not. Doesn't really
yes,
matter what religion or color or race or ethnicity you are. It's not. And it
yes,
only really matters from such distance, I think, love. It's kind of sounds weird from the dude, but I think at such a distance, only love
yeah,
really matters. And
yes,
there was Augustine Aurelius, one of the Asian philosophers, and he said it once: in main united, in secondary diverse, and everything is love. Everything else is love. And I think if you'll think about that a little bit, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
And this is what maybe actually different cultures teach me. Diversity, it's great. You know,
yes, actually,
it's
actually,
and I'm enjoying it every day. Just see, like for example, I spent some time in New York and lived there for a few years. And what I loved about that, not just the city, what looks like a movie, because every corner is a movie, if you
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah,
but
yeah,
how many different cultures you see at such a tiny place. And I think it was the most exciting part about that. So yeah, I think, in main unity and secondary diversity and love for everything else, that's for sure.
yes, yes. Actually, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Okay, so moving on. And before I continue, there's one particular thing I love about, your zooming out. Sometimes when you're inside the mess, maybe something is going on, something is messy. When you're in the mess, you tend not to notice important details. But when you, like you said, when you zoom out just far enough, you're outside the mess, you actually take a look at it, you could notice some important details that could actually help you, sort out the whole thing, separate what is important from what is not important, and begin to take the necessary actions to probably get rid of the mess or to arrange everything in order. And that's actually a very nice way to do things. I would actually copy that from trying to zoom out of anything trying to deal with, try to look at it from a much more different or a perspective that is far away from the problem, kind of like thinking out of the box, if you will. Try to look at what I'm sorting, be able to separate what's important from what is not important, then of course try and get rid of the problem and solve it. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think most founders get wrong? Maybe people that are finding a startup or starting a company or something.
Well, I think, there's kind of two steps because where are you at as a founder, right? If you
Yes.
founder just of nothing yet, I think preparation is great and watching like podcasts like yours is great. But
Yes.
the main question, when you will start, I think that's the main question, and I think there is a there will be no time when you will be absolutely prepared. So
Oh
just
wow.
just
Just
start
start.
doing it. Just
Just start.
start doing that and start doing it today.
Oh wow.
And if
Wow.
you
That
will start to do it every single day, 5 minutes a day, or whatever you want to do in your life, it will make a difference.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
actually that's wonderful. That's just it. Just start. The moment you start, everything will make sense. Instead of you trying to, I know people, I have some of my friends that they've been wanting to start something for a while. They will just be planning, drawing drafts and planning and planning and planning, making plans. Bro, just start. The moment you start, you can make iterations, you can make corrections, just execute essentially. And I agree with that 100%. So the last one is, what do you think the future of car culture is?
Well, electric cars are coming. We have no idea. We probably
Yeah.
not electric cars are coming. Tesla is coming. All these self-driving cars are coming. Mm, I think we're gonna see interesting time. We're gonna interesting time when we probably maybe the last generation, maybe our kids, the last generation who drive in cars themselves.
Oof.
It's
Are you serious?
probably yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably
you
going.
actually you believe that?
Well, I see it. I would never imagine, but literally, a couple months ago, I went to SEMA with Mods and Arvion, and I was in shock when the bus stopped by and I didn't see any driver. There was no
Oh,
even driver seat. It just was the bus with the doors we were supposed to walk in. To be honest, me working with technology and with cars, I was a little bit scared for a
yes,
second.
actually, you have to be scared.
I was not sure where this thing gonna take me to.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
terrified. But I think it's coming and it's coming everywhere. So I think we just, let's buckle up the seat and enjoy the ride for now and then see where
yeah.
it goes. At least
Yeah.
we had a great time, that's for sure.
Yes, that's for sure. One thing I wish I the thing is, if we continue going this route of, self-driving cars, we could get to a point where there would not be any need for a steering wheel in our cars anymore. They would have to remove the steering. And I really hope that doesn't happen, because the moment there's no steering wheel, there's literally no way for you to fight against the AI bots driving your car when it goes AWire. You understand? You understand? So there's no way for you, because you can, if let's say you're in a self-driving car, for example, and it starts to malfunction, you can quickly grab the wheel and maybe try to struggle with the AI. But if there's no steering wheel, you can't probably do that. So I don't know. I don't think that would be something people will want to experience. Hopefully, hopefully they will be able to fine tune, perfect the AI that it can perform its job perfectly. But honestly, for me, for my personal opinion, I still prefer being able to drive my car myself. I don't want any
Well,
help from any AI. Yeah.
people still ride horses. So I believe people will ride horses in centuries. And I believe
Yes.
people still gonna drive cars. It's just gonna be unique experience.
Yes, kind of actually. Okay, so I wanted to ask, this is my final question before we round up for the interview. So I wanted to ask you, if you could zoom out 10 years into the future, do you think Mod Nation is going to become a platform or a marketplace? Oh, sorry. The question is actually about before, if you zoom out 10 years, does Mod Nation become a platform, a marketplace, a data engine, or something bigger? What do you think is going to be the final form of Mods Nation?
For me, probably the only thing really important if people still gonna have fun, because I'm having fun when I'm doing that. And
Yeah,
for me, if in 10 years some kid will stop by, will put his car on, and he will do something there, and it will get him excited, or maybe he will even do something with that.
yeah.
I think that's totally worth it. Even just one kid, it doesn't really matter. For
Oh,
me,
wow.
it's always was about fun and sharing. So, I think that would be great if it will happen like that.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's so wonderful. I love that. The fact that your product will still make people happy in the space of 10 years, that's what you really want. That's such a beautiful thing. And I'm really glad that your product has been able to gain the grounds that it has gained in the car sphere. And I hope that your product continues to perform exceptionally well in the space. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast to share your experience, to share your expertise, and share your insights. It's been such a pleasure to have you, Pete. Where can my listeners and my audience, learn more about your work, test out your product, become members of your platform, and possibly connect with you?
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to be on your podcast. And everyone is welcome to come by and just have fun. It doesn't cost anything. It just, you don't need to buy anything. You don't need to try anything. You're just having fun. So why
Yeah.
not? Please come.
That's wonderful. This has really been a fascinating conversation. The fact that you've been able to combine design, philosophy, technology, and cow culture into one platform is a very beautiful thing to behold. And I'm so happy that once again, honestly, I really am happy that your product is performing beautifully well, and I'm definitely going to try it out. And yeah, I believe the link is on Podmatch, so I'm going to try out your platform and experience it for myself.
Correct.
And of course, when I'm posting this video, if you're listening, this video should be already posted by this time. If you're a listener and you're currently watching this video or you're listening on Spotify, please check out Pete's product. It's actually a very beautiful thing to behold. It's very wonderful. I can actually see a Porsche behind him. I think it's a Porsche 911 if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Yeah, so yeah. So make sure to check out his product. It's exceptional. Pete, it's been a pleasure to have you. Do have a wonderful day and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. And the same to you. I appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Brother, it was really fun. I really enjoyed that. It's 4 o'clock in the morning here, but trust me, every minute worth that. So thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's wow, that's crazy. Thank you so much for waking up early to join my to
Oh, no,
join
no,
me.
I do work crazy hours. I work like 16, 18 hours a day, so it's totally
Whoa.
cool.
Well,
I'm
it's
like, I just
actually
finished.
yeah, it's currently 10 in the morning here, so it's kind of close, kind of kind
Right,
of well, it's about 6 hours or so. Okay. It's a ple oh, I mean 2 hours rather. I say 6 hours. It's a pleasure to have.
right,
All right.
right.
Have a good one.